Topics I'm going to talk about are, one is the Avi app, which just was launched by the Friends of the Northwest Avalanche Center. We have the great opportunity of being enrolled in that app this year, so we're going to get into that and what that looks like. And then secondly, I'm just going to talk briefly on a possibility that we also have with the web platforms that we use specifically around observations. And the idea that maybe we could expand the observation zones that we have in order to better support you all and also us and data capturing. So let's dive in. So NWAC you might have seen this online or on social media, but the Northwest Avalanche Center just launched an app called Avi, Avalanche and Weather Information. And basically this is a mobile platform so that anybody has access to avalanche information, observations, and weather data from US avalanche centers who are on the National Avalanche Center platform. We, as MWAC, happen to be on the NAC platform, which is great. And then also for this year, there'll be, let's see, it looks like 8 other avalanche centers that will have this platform. So within this one app, you'll have the ability to access any one of these. So if you decided to take a trip and go ski in the Tetons, you can easily pull up Bridger Teton and get this on the same platform that you have here. So at kind of a high level, what this is basically just easier access to the forecast and the forecast products when you're on the go. We know from our website data that, here's our total users. So for all of last season, we had just under 100,000 unique website visits. And we know that about 30% of those, almost 70% of those came from people using the website on mobile. And so that kind of leads us to think that this is going to be really widely adopted by people who check the avalanche forecast and use the avalanche forecast products. And so we're really excited about that. In addition to checking the forecasts, this will allow you to submit observations from the field, which is something that you probably could do if you're just using a web browser on your phone, but I think from trying it myself, it's pretty clunky. It's not a great experience and it kind of takes a while. So there's kind of a simplified observations page on the app that allows you to submit in the field and also has offline support so that you can sort of do your observation even if you're not in connectivity. And then when you get back to service, it will just update and populate into our normal platform. And all these observations will show up on the observations page of our website, just like normal. So finally is sort of the weather data piece of this. And this is still in development for MWAC. So our infrastructure for data collection for our weather stations and our snow plots is sort of atypical from what we typically see in, say, the Western US, who's mostly based off of a SNOTEL infrastructure. And so since we're sort of piecing together, it's like this patchwork of data sources. So we've got the OBS, we've got NOAA, we've got our caretaker manual weather or snow plot stations. We've got our own little stations to maintain. And so because of this, there's just some integration work that needs to happen before we can have this be available on the app, but we're working to make this happen. So I give it maybe a year or two, and hopefully this will be a feature. So I just did a couple of use as your primary, and then it takes you right to the screen of the forecast zone. And then once I'm in that screen, I can kind of scroll around. If there's multiple zones, I can look through them. And then I can tap on the forecast zone and I can go directly to the Avalanche Forecaster Bulletin. And that has the bottom line, it has the discussion, it has media, it has everything that you normally get on the website. And it's all in this sort of mobile-friendly platform. platform. You'll also notice on the top there's tabs. And so I can scroll across and see the weather section. This is not the weather stations. This is the weather section that's written by the forecasting team in the morning. And then I can also scroll to observations. And I can look through any recent observations that are in the forecast zone. So this is one from, there's actually I don't know if you saw this one, there was a little avalanche incident. Everybody was okay in Left Gully just last week, I believe. And it looks pretty good on the app. And then lastly, you can submit observations. So here's sort of what that looks like. You know, nice kind of clear labels, user interface, put your location in. Kind of put a pin where I think I am. I can enter some data, and you'll notice that this observation submission is the basic one. So if you go to our website, there is a more advanced form that allows you to fill out additional fields with other types of data that, from your observation. And so for this app, at least for now, it's just the basic form. And for us, a lot of times, that's kind of all we need. So I can just enter a little description as short or as long as I want. So let's transition to observation zones. So currently, what does this look like? For observations, when you are on our website, we have great support for observations that are submitted within the presidential forecast area. So everything within that polygon right there. But what happens when I want to submit an observation from Lincoln's Throat or Hancock or Baldface, somewhere that's not technically within the forecast area? So what happens is they show up, but typically they're really hard to find, they're not sortable, and they get kind of lost in the ether, so to speak, when it comes to data tracking, which makes it challenging when we're trying to look at sort of metadata over time, over the course of time in an avalanche area for both us and for the National Avalanche Center. So one thing that we can do to improve this now, is supported by the NAC platform, is we can actually add observation zones. So this is, I should say, a theoretical mock-up, right? I'm not saying this is what this is going to look like, but I sort of just sat down and quickly came up with some zones that loosely, I think, make a little bit of sense. And I should say they're not forecast zones, but they're observation zones. So you can see our blue zone is the forecast area. And then I sort of divided and have like a White Mountains East, a White Mountains West, and a White Mountains South. And what would happen with this is that, when you're in these areas and you submit an observation, they would be visible and easily sortable within these zones. It would help with our data tracking over time, and maybe some incentive for observation submission. Because if you say, hey, I'm going to go ski a slide on the Kank today, let me just pull up White Mountains South observation zone and see what is there. And so it's a nice way to sort of be able to look through the information that is available to you. So that's all I have. A huge thank you to the Mount Washington Avalanche Center Foundation, who supported us being able to have the app and share it with all of you. I'd encourage you to go to the App Store and download that now. The Northwest Avalanche Center for developing the app, not a small undertaking, and of course the National Avalanche Center. I'll take any questions if anybody has, otherwise I'll hand it back to Ben. Thanks everybody.